indignity! Some AEG nightmare Gordon has given me the complete shunt! I'm in a total mess! Hold the indignity! Hip hip hooray, I found some more Thomas & Friends all engines go stock. It was new in store, a lot of this stuff. I found Young Bao at my local Kmart, the one which has the massive shoplifting problem. My advice here is grab Young Bao if you see him, because the previous variants of Young Bao, there weren't that many previous variants because Young Bao's quite young, was always popular. We won't be looking at Young Bao in this video. Maybe one day we will, maybe we won't. I found James. This is in another store and I had to fight to get these next three engines out of store. James, black line work needs to be refined and made darker. Now I've talked about this and I'm still saying it's not dark enough, and I have got an example of some which are done correctly, but they're very few. I found Carly. This is the Carly the Crane, which is not the 3-pack. It's the non-dressed up version in the sense it's a cleaner looking Carly, potentially a peg sitter, but I might be totally wrong. This video will be focused on the Gordon and a little story of how I had to get these out of store. I'm over it with this shop. That's why I'm going to talk about it. Before we go any further, I better put up that stupid warning.
Warning. This video is made for a general audience. It may contain adult themes, consumer advice, and information that can be enjoyed by all ages. I need to say this because, sadly, the YouTube systems are totally dumb ass.
Well, I absolutely guarantee you don't see that on YouTube every day. Not a chance. Complete freak accident. Amazing. Okay, what's in my hands? Well, if you read the packaging, it's Thomas & Friends Gordon, which is the character name, and it just says motorized. Now, some people would say this is All Engines Go, Trackmaster, or Trackmaster 3. There's all sorts of names, and some of them leach back to previous times. One thing I initially noticed when I saw this in store is look at the wheel size versus the overall height of the engine here. We may get into that discussion a bit later in the video. And we'll take a look at the back of the packaging, and I've said it before, but this really doesn't help me understand the brand. There's a whole bunch of gobbledygook here which I feel needs to go. We need to get pictures of other things available or a synopsis about Gordon. That's going to help sell the toy, because not everyone who grabs this in store understands what they're picking up, and sometimes you need little cues to understand what you're picking up. Anyway, let's get into unboxing this. I'm going to do it a bit differently because I've got a story to tell about getting these out of store. It was actually a fight to get Gordon, James and Carly out of this store. I've got the receipt here because I want to tell the story, and I want the company to go back and look at their camera at the Chatford store at this time, because it's all on camera. You'll see me fighting to get these out of store. I did pay for these toys, and to get this receipt generated, I had to do all the work to get them out of shop. And I'll just keep rambling on here as I carefully unbox Gordon here. Okay, it came up, unknown item, and I've been through this before at these same stores. I don't get this trouble anywhere else. And of course, I'm not going to just walk away and, you know, be told, oh, you can't get this out of store, blah, blah, blah. The staff person came up to help me, and they started to try to use their little scanner thing. You know, they got like a little machine to tell them what this is. It came up with nothing. They couldn't find anything, so I went online. I had to do all the work here to get this out of shop. I went online, I found the item, and I just said, look, this item is a $16 item. Can I please just code into the register here, because everything's frippin' self-serve now. Just please code into the register your codes, do a code 11, do whatever, get me out of this place. I don't want to be here, okay? And they said, oh, no, you know, we've got to get a code. Oh, it'll be on the website somewhere. So on my phone, and I think I've got some things here I can flash up and show you, I ended up finding the code, and it's in very small print down the bottom, and that's what you need to pump into the machine to get out of this shop. This shop has got a chronic problem with the point of sale retail. It needs to be fixed. So, in fact, it's too late to be fixed because this should have been fixed years ago. This has been a constant problem. Anyway, that's the story about getting those out of store, and I got Gordon out of the box without a thrashing rubber chicken maniac action. It's amazing. I'm really sorry to have to tell you the story, but I think it's important to tell. And from here on, every time I look at this Gordon, or the James or the Carly, I'm always going to remember the hiccup at point of sale. It's the same with the store escape salty. I'll never forget that day. And I had to do all the work to get this out of store. It shouldn't be like that. But this retailer was also one, and it happened about 2 years ago-ish. I never told the story, but one day I will. I'll tell you the full story about this item here. When I was in one of their stores, and a staff person accused me of shoplifting this from their store. And the way it was done was they saw this in my bag, they wanted to take a look at it, and then they got their store scanner, boop, 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 and they tried to get this to read on their store scanner because they believed this was shoplifted from their store. And I was trying to walk out with it, and I said, hey, I bought this from the reject shop just around the corner. So how do you think I felt as a customer being accused of shoplifting when this didn't register on their scanner? I wasn't fearful it was going to come up on their scanner. I was just amazed that I was put through that. My complaint went right up through the hierarchy of the company, and when this shop fails and it's gone out of Australia, I'll tell you the full story. Okay, let's get on and take a look at this Gordon. Before I go any further, there's one thing I need. The turntable, I believe it's up in the house. I'll be back in a flash.
Thank God he's gone. Goodbye, good riddance, and don't come back because I can do the review myself. Did you hear that story he said? Don't believe a word he said. He's lying. He's absolutely lying. The whole thing's a bunch of gobwash just to make you feel sorry for him. He's a narcissistic sociopath. Just look at him. He can't be trusted. Anyway, that bag of farts is my bag of farts. Take a look. It says Elf bag of frippin' farts. My God! And he thinks you're gonna believe it's his? It's not his, it's my bag of farts. Well, I'm gonna mess with his head. I'm gonna go down there and leave him a message and get my bag of farts back. He's a frippin' loser. Just gonna get over to my bag of farts. Leave him the message. It's hard to get across the table here. I'll just leave the message there. Let me show you what the bag of farts does. So much fun. And it's all mine. Mine. Oh, good. Come back with me, bag of farts. I missed you so much.
Okay, I've grabbed the turntable from inside. I'll just carefully get it onto the table here. I'll just gently move Gordon up onto the turntable because that's what we're looking at in this video. Get rid of that. Gently put James aside. Crunch. Gently get rid of Carly. Hang on, where's my bag of farts gone? Oh, no. Oh, what the hell's this? I've been having a series of strange messages left on my review table during 2022. What is this one going to tell me? Stop telling lies. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? I'm just looking around. What the hell was that? And who's leaving these messages? And where's my bag of farts? I mean, this is just out of control. I'm not going to rip this one up. I'm going to keep this as evidence, and I might have to go and see the police over this. It's so nice to have Gordon. And one thing about the all engines go motorised Trackmaster blah blah is the way they've done the guts, the insides of these, is a bit different to before. I've actually put the batteries in here already. But when you open these up, they've got this really long turn on, turn offer, which seems quite awkward, but it's to accommodate for the height going on. They're very high versus what came before it. I think the basic core is fairly similar. We won't get into brands of batteries, or else I'll be rage as per usual. But when I remember first seeing this, I just thought, wow, that's really peculiar. And it still looks peculiar now, and I'll get this back together. It is easy to get, of course, the batteries in and out, and the fact everything takes the same batteries now is nice. And we'll do one of those shots that I haven't done for a very long time. So comforting. Before I do my infamous in-hand appraisal, I'm going to give this a run on the turntable first. It's rather interesting for the fact we've got the whistle here right up next to this lever here. Okay, let's just take a look at Gordon doing a runner first. A little bit of a lumpy runner, but you sort of get that sometimes, you know. It's picking up speed on this side here. It's not looking too bad at all. Gordon doesn't quite know it, but I do have control over his speed, and when I look at Gordon on this angle here, it looks okay. when you look at the engine versus the tender. But it's when it comes around square onto us, we'll start to see a problem. And if I get Gordon to be right here, and if I just tease it slowly there, now look at the gap there between the driver's cab and the tender, and I'll just get my fingers in here to show you how big it is. Way too big. And I can show you that again. In fact, I could almost fit 3 fingers in there. But really, it's a 2-finger gap, and how do you get the coal into the engine there? It'd be near impossible. And it has me thinking, why is there the big gap here on the Trackmaster 3 stuff? I don't understand why. There's definitely some things that I like going on here, but maybe one big litmus test is to go back one generation to a Trackmaster 2 Gordon. If I get this Gordon up on the tracks here, it might tell us a bit of a story, hopefully without causing a train wreck. Okay, that Gordon's on the tracks. So there's our Trackmaster All Engines Go Gordon. Just have a bit of a mental picture of that, and I'll just bring along what came before it, as in Trackmaster 2 Gordon. It's quite a different serving of Gordon, isn't it? It's smaller in scale, but I'm seeing more details there, and I'm thinking maybe that's a better version. Let's let me go back to All Engines Go Gordon. Yeah. Very interesting, isn't it? But maybe take a look at the size of the wheels. So the wheels here versus the height of the engine, they're the same size wheels. Yeah. Which one do you prefer? I'll tell you what, I think I prefer that one there. To me, the proportions seem a little bit more realistic. Going back to All Engines Go again. Just seems a bit tall for my liking. I'll just let the engines pass like this to give you a slightly different angle of differences between these two. Rather curious, isn't it? Very curious indeed. It's almost a chalk and cheese sort of thing going on here. Let me shut down these Gordons and it'll come in for in-your-hand appraisal without causing a train wreck, of course. Okay, Gordon, fan favourite. I'm split 50-50 on this one, as in there's quite a few things here I don't like and a few things that I do like. I think to start with, what I don't like is when the plastic on these toys isn't shiny. This is a satin look, and if I just glare it like that, you can see what's going on there. I've seen much better shiny finishes with toys like this, and I don't understand plastics enough to understand what gives you a gloss, a satin, or a matte look. Maybe I've got plastics experts that look at my stuff, but I think it's just lacking in that department. Even the black across the cab is lacking, and when we look at the previous version of Gordon, you'll see what I mean. But at least the line work on this one is probably done the nicest I've seen. Often you'll see the line work doesn't match up on the 3 points when they do the artwork on these engines. Often it's quite lackluster in the way it joins up, but the line work on this seems okay. The whistle is strange for the fact it's cocked over to one side. I shouldn't use the word cocked. There goes the algorithm for me. It should be in the middle, and sometimes you'll see on Gordon there's like little, are they pre-whistles or something before the big whistle, and that big whistle is big, and I think the previous version had nothing, and there's that sort of awkward, very big on-off switch there. The dome, I think, should be a little bit forward. I think it's just too far back. At least we've got a sort of a funnel back. I think the face is okay. Look, we're dealing with All Engines Go here, so the thing about Gordon is it's the shape of the nose. Maybe it's a bit too happy and gay for my liking. Gordon's more of a, I don't know, more attitude. There's not enough attitude in that face. But sternness, there's a nice word, without getting flagged off the site. No painted buffers. It'd be nice if these are a bit bigger. We've got no lamp posts. Remember all these things because we're going to look at the previous version as well. We've got no connecting rod, which is the hallmark of All Engines Go. We've got a representation of a little pony wheel, or whatever that little wheel is at the front of a larger steam locomotive. And it's sort of so small, you think, why do they bother? And then what's even sillier is you've got even a smaller representation of a very small wheel here. It's tiny. It's like a little nothing. It's like almost like an error. I don't know, to me it would have been best either made more representing a wheel or just left off totally. So we've got sort of these two areas here which are trying to tell us there's more wheels on Gordon, and we will take a look at an ERTL Gordon to show you what proper wheel setup looks like. You can't get into the cab. You know, the wheel, at least the windows are set back a bit. It is what it is. It's Thomas and Friends, all engines go. I think the height thing, if the wheels were sunk into this a bit better, and we will see on the previous version the wheels are up a bit higher, I just think the relationship here is wrong, and it conforms to that 70mm thing that goes on with these engines. Okay, so I first noticed that with the Thomas, and of course you've got to be careful what layouts you make, because it won't fit into a lot of the older stuff that's getting about. You know, the new fanboys are going to love it, the older fanboys are going to hate this. Hopefully I've been fairly representative of what's going on here. We've got no plumbing as well. Did I mention that? Yeah, I mean, when you look at previous versions, you start to realise what's missing. And I think maybe the problem with this Gordon is very simple. It's what's missing. And if I bring up the previous version of Gordon, you start to really see the glaring things that have changed and missing and moved. The dome. The dome is in the wrong spot in my mind. Okay, the plumbing's missing. Look at this difference in size of face. The large face is very indicative of all engines go. The funnel, at least, look, there's things we've got here that were sort of lacking before. You might say, oh, but the funnel's oversized, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, all engines goes, it's a big toy, I tell you. And look, sometimes big is good, but sometimes, you know, big can be a bit clumsy as well. Clumsy is a good word, I think, for, you know, when things just aren't right. Take a look at the back there, you know, around the cab. And remember I spoke about the shiny? Okay, if I get it glaring there, you'll see there's a big difference in the way. That's, to me, satin when I'm tapping there, and that's glossy. And that's what I really noticed. I really like the shininess, even on the cab. The cab shows it as well. That, to me, is a satin finish. That one there, what came before, was gloss. I think we want gloss. I don't understand plastics enough to get my head around that. You know, look, I'm being picky, but hey, that's my job. Someone's got to be picky about this, and maybe, you know, the best thing, maybe the face is an improvement. Well, I've got to give points somewhere. I know you're probably going to argue with me, but I think it's got a great Gordon face. There's a good reason why I call it infamous in-hand appraisal. We'll take a look at the tenders next. I'll just put Gordon down gently on his side. This is the All Engines Go tender. Okay, it's got the generic look, I think, across all the tender engines. It has got this sort of gap either side, which I don't know what that's for. You could probably slide in something of joy in there if you want. The coal bunker, of course, it's matte finish, but which is correct, because coal is matte looking. Thank God for that. Again, the plastic's not shiny. The 4 is good, but consider the red around the 4. The line work here looks like it's good both sides. But guess what? We have no buffer detailing. The buffer's on both sides, whether that's right or wrong, who really knows? We've got no little extra details on the wheels. If there was a bit of colour on that bit of detail on the wheels, it'd be nice. But maybe by bringing up the tender that came before it, we start to see what's really missing. Okay, so here's the tender beforehand. And it seems longer. Is it longer, or is it just like an optical illusion? It's a bit of an optical illusion because it's not as high. It's taller. See that? Big difference in height. The length is just about the same, but look at the way the wheels are finished in either one. Now, which one do you prefer? I know which one I prefer. I prefer this one here, the one that came before it, because we've got these details that make it look like a frippin' train. I mean, this is the basics. In fact, even the spoked sort of wheels look more interesting versus what's going on here, and if anything, the wheels look exposed and all a bit obvious, but that's a hallmark of All Engines Go. Yeah, so even the coal, it's a bit shiny there. It looks better, and we've got matte looking coal here, and then again we get back to that shiny. If I can get it to glink in the lights there, see how nice and shiny that is. I don't quite get that sort of shine. You can get a shine, but it's a satiny shine versus that glossy shine. I'm not sure how good I am at reflecting there, but I think I prefer the glossiness versus the satin look. In my hand here is a completely spectacular 1989 ERTL Gordon. My goodness me, you can't keep your eyes off it. It's just done right in so many ways, although there are a couple of awkward things going on here as well. Of course, the tender was connected to the engine, And the coupling system was a bit naffed, but hey, I don't think anyone complained back then, because guess what? There was no internet back then. If you were playing with this toy back in 1989, thank God you've been adult by the time you're watching this video on YouTube. Thank God for that. Hey YouTube, not so sight. What I like about this Gordon here is simple. Look at the way the wheels are done. The wheels are done in a way that makes Gordon look big and grand, because that's the style of engine he is. We've got our big driving wheels here. We've got our little pony wheels, whatever they're called wheels. We've got our wheel under the driver's cab. We've got our tender wheels as well. And when Gordon's done in a correct configuration with the right sort of wheels, he looks right. But sadly, we rarely ever get that these days. Another curious Gordon I've got, Trackmaster 2. It's a shooting star Gordon. Is it the Great Race this is from? It's the time when Thomas stories were starting to work out, well, we can get away from Sutter Island and derail from the goodness of where they came from without getting too cranky. It's a streamlining style of Gordon. It was a very, very popular toy. Remember, this didn't last long in shops. Now, mine has developed a problem, and that's really why I wanted to show you. And it's got a very slight metallic blue fleck in the plastic. Now, it might be hard to see, but mine's got a discoloration going on. And if I just roll the Gordon over like this, you'll see this side's gone a yellowy in the blue, and if I roll it over, you'll see it's the proper blue down here, and there's a transition point where you see both colours going on there. I hope you can see that. It's a bit disappointing to see it's going wrong. It's like the line there of the plumbing has separated the yellowing side versus the original colour. And if I take a look around the front here, you'll see it as well. You'll see it's yellow on this side, and you can see the original colour here. And there's like a divide going down through there where it transitions across. The way this was stored, it's stored in box. It was stored on its side. It didn't have batteries in it. I always store these toys without batteries. Maybe the plastic of the box has come up and affected this, and maybe the metal flex got something to do with this. The wheels aren't affected. So it's got me thinking, what's going on here? I'm not a plastics expert, but it's a bit like, you know, when your white computer turns beige over time. It's like that's gone on there. The tender is stored in a different box, and it's not affected at all from what I can see. In fact, you can see there the difference in colour of the plastic. No, the tender's fine on both sides. So I don't like it when this happens, and I don't quite understand the processes that cause this, but I'm sure someone out there in audience land is going to work this out. And I even think the face as well has been affected by this, although it might be my imagination working on me. Well, I'll get these trains onto the turntable, I'll give them a bit of a spin, and just another thing about this All Engines Go Gordon is I could spend maybe 10-15 minutes with a couple of textures, like a silver and a black one, and I could improve this 1000%. But it's not my job to do that. It's actually the toy company's job to make things right. But then again, we've been waiting for things to be done right for a very long time, haven't we? We're sort of getting there in a strangest way, but it's an awkward process. And what I'm going to do before I show you these getting up and running around on the turntable is I'm going to go to the Kmart at Chatswood to show you what's going on there versus my local Kmart. Let's go there. I'm in another Kmart. This isn't my local Kmart. This is the one at Chatswood Chase. And I'm going to what would be the same sort of naughty corner that happens at my local Kmart. It's like the back of the store. It's fairly reclusive. There's no cameras around here. And let's take a look at what goes on here. Let's look around here. Looking up high, of course. Okay. This is up at adult height. Okay, this means nothing to me because I'm not a Hot Wheels person. Maybe you'll tell me if that's worthwhile pinching from store, but it's gone. Coming along a bit further. Okay, this looks a bit ratty. Someone's got into these clothing here. Was it singlets? I'll just call it singlets and Co. So it's like a generic brand singlet. Why would you bother? That's what I don't understand. Okay. This is just frippin' crazy. This is so different to my, let's say, my local Kmart. These are tubes for bikes. So there's one there. It looks like it would have been quite a large one. These are the inner tubes that you put on a bicycle tyre. 2, 3. Why would you frippin' take that? Well, that really is strange. And there's this here. What's that? Is that something to do with, yeah, cosmetics, okay? Very mismatched, whether or not it's all from the same time period, but that makes no sense to me. It's crazy. It's a different dynamic to my local Kmart. I'm just going to look on the other side here as well. There are things here that are out of place, like things like this, which I'm not sure what that really means. It's up very high. That's one thing I'll say about that. Okay, just looking along here. This side looks okay. Okay, I just spotted something on the other side. Okay, what's this doing down here? And it looks like it's all gone. Okay, so it's another makeup king or queen. We can't say if it's a boy or a girl because we haven't seen the person who's taken this, but it's all gone. And it looks like a little shopping list of stuff in here. This is like a grab bag. Someone's got a box of stuff and they've probably come down the back here to do something fairly stupid and they've left it here. Maybe they were spooked, but again, why would you bother? And Halloween stuff. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But so much of it's like that. Just along from that, and I'm looking down on the ground here now, it looks like something's fallen down. There is this here. What is this? It's looks like more makeup sort of stuff. So obviously the makeup people like to come down here. Okay, I'm starting to get my eye in. The more I look around here, the more that I see there's a lot of stuff out of place. There's a lot of very messy areas like this. Looking up here, this is something that comes, I think comes with a helmet. That's just been left here. That could be a natural thing. This is here. I don't know why this is here. Looks like someone was going to manipulate that out of store. And then if I come around here, and this is quite interesting, this box put here, it's been set up as a little hide because look at this here. Look at this here. Okay. Roblox. I remember seeing Roblox stuff being taken from my local Kmart. And that would be, of course, empty. Whatever is in there has been taken out. And whatever else. Okay, just sort of makes no sense. It really makes no sense. Yeah, it's one of these things, the more I look here, the more I'm going to find. This is where the bike tubes hang out. So whoever's stolen the bike tubes over there have come here first. Let's just see how much a bike tube is. This is how petty it is. Petty theft. And being petty theft, people tend to turn a blind eye to it. Okay, $5.50 for something like that. Just moving on from that area there. In fact, the more I look here, the more I find. Okay, that would have been a pump of something for a bicycle, a ball pump, a sports ball pump, out of store. I've seen enough to tell you a story. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I'll make a dedicated video. And of course, the problem here is the same as my local Kmart. There's not a camera in sight. When I take a look at the roof area around here, there's nothing here to deter people. This is the Hot Wheels area at the Chatswood Kmart. It needs to be restocked. I actually did come here to look at the Hot Wheels 20 packs to see if they were being eaten into like my local Kmart, but these aren't 20 packs. This is the Advent calendar. Wouldn't that be a charming thing to have? Not. But I can't find any 20 packs at this store. Get your stuff now because by the time Christmas hits, there's going to basically be nothing left. That's my gut feeling. And we'll look at the Thomas area and there's not much to look at. Not much at all. There's a Percy here and the Trackmaster 3 twin packs and nothing behind it apart from someone's dirty coffee cup. Put that back as it should be. And there is just one Emily here. Yeah, Emily is definitely a confirmed shelf sitter. And put her back nice and square. Look at this, the girls get all the good stuff. There's no sizes here that would fit me and there's no sleeves on these. Bowie, Led Zeppelin, and this is the one that caught my eye. Kiss, but there's nothing like that for men. Well, back to the turntable. I tell you what, one thing I'm noticing across all the retailers that I go to is the Thomas & French stock is running low, and that's actually a good sign. I'm going to have a train wreck if I'm not fast. Oops. If the stock was all sitting there and unsold, well, Thomas & Friends is in trouble, but from what I can see, it's very popular, in particular the All Engines Go stuff. Okay, they're sort of playing catch up, and I've got a kitten at my feet is going to come up onto the table and cause havoc, I'm sure. Okay, that's Teddy there. Teddy's getting onto 8 months old, I think, in the whole scheme of things. Getting into very much cat form, well past the kitten phase. How are you, Teddy? You good? Sadly, Teddy's mum passed away. It was a couple of months back now. And Teddy is the offspring of Little Cat. And I haven't really brought the whole story of what went on there. It's quite a story in the fact that Teddy's mum was basically a stray and obviously not desexed. Yeah, I could tell you quite a story what I think about cats and ones that aren't microchipped and blah blah blah. Anyway, back to the trains, and they've all played catch up, and I can do a bit of a nice slow shot if I go in like that and do a bit of hand manipulation. We get to see what's going on here. Shooting Star Gordon's awesome, isn't it? I'll tell you what, the previous version of Gordon, it's talking to me. Oh, the indignity! I've got another Gordon giving me the shove from behind and my tender's looking rather ratty. Maybe what I'll do is I'll put the Shooting Star Gordon onto the inside track without causing a train wreck. Oh my goodness me. Saved just in time there. And that might make it a bit more dynamic to look at. Okay, of course that's the All Engines Go Gordon. Look, it is what it is. There's a Shooting Star shooting past, of course, because it's on a smaller radius. Yeah, I think it's really important to look at what we have now versus what came before. It's making you rethink Trackmaster too, isn't it? Very much so. It's making me rethink a lot of things. There's a strange thing that goes on with the Thomas & Friends toys, and it helps if we don't have Shooting Star Gordon causing a train wreck. What I was going to say, and I'm just going to keep it going here, is at the moment I'm bagging out this Gordon here for the reasons that I explained in the video, but in maybe 5 years time I'm going to come along and say, you know, wow, that Gordon's not bad at all. It's actually a pretty good rendition of Gordon. There's that constant that seems to go on, and I'm not sure what you call that as things evolve over time, but every time we go back in time and look at the toys, they always seem to be far grander than what we remember when we first take a look. And that train wreck just keeps on developing, doesn't it? Oh, it's busted through. The Shooting Star Gordon's actually gone mental. Maybe because I wasn't paying enough attention to him. It's going to take out the Trackmaster 2 Gordon up the back there. It's looking very edgy. Oh, the fun of the turntable, my crikey, it's the best fun of all, and what can make it even more fun is a giant cat comes along and says hello. Hey, Teddy. Probably wants food, that's why it's harassing me like mad. Teddy, do you like looking at train wrecks? No. Great. Won't invite you back. Yeah, it's looking very messy. I like the look of that. You know, you can't keep your eyes off a good train wreck, and man, Shooting Star Gordon is still causing havoc here. You just don't know where it's going to go next, do you? It's really wanting to jag in and take out Trackmaster 2 Gordon. All Engines Go Gordon's very messed up and being rammed by Trackmaster 2. Oh, the indignity! I've created my own train wreck 3 times over. Oh! There's a helicopter shot of what's going on here at the turntable, and it's a bit of a stalemate. Sometimes you get these stalemates, but you know, one thing that undoes a stalemate, you can't guess, can you? What undoes a stalemate is a military grade rubber chicken! I love it. You didn't see that one coming, did you? Neither did Teddy. Teddy's done the bolt. Oh man, that was fun. I just love getting the chicken out and having a good old whack. I'm glad to see the chicken. And this up here, I actually grabbed this the same day I grabbed the toys which were troublesome out of store. This is in a discount store, and it was $24, I think, and then through the checkouts it came out as 18. I purely got it as a curiosity. Now Teddy's here. Right in your Teddy. And it's funny, I could almost review this and I don't have to look up anything online to tell you what's inside or explain what's in there. I've got a lot of KISS information in my head. Over the years it's just gathered. Teddy's going to really make this a nightmare. And part of me wants to just take a look at the pictures which are within this, in this game, because it's curious how KISS can sometimes be focused on a certain era of KISS. It looks like to me that's really set on the classic era. And as in back in the 70s. And I could talk about all of the fantastic eras of KISS. It's actually quite a complex band to get your head around, and I will save the chicken at the back here as well, because that's taken a dive. We can't have chickens taking a dive, and now Teddy's going to play with the chicken, looks of it. Oh, I'm giving up. I'm giving up. In this video, I made comparisons between what we call Trackmaster 2 Gordon and what we're calling Trackmaster 3, or AEG Gordon. You're probably asking me, where's Trackmaster 1 and the Tomy toys? Very, very good query if you're asking that. I had a look in my storage box, which lays under the house, and unfortunately I can't find a Gordon in here. And then it had me thinking, what happened to Gordon? When you look at these toys here, it's like a totally different era of Thomas toys. And I do have an Edward, which is about, you know, something that is semi-representative in a sense, but you can just see how glorious it looks versus what's served up today. You know, as you dig further back in time, you see the glory. And maybe another good example is I've got Dodge here. Okay, this is how it should be, but it's not like this. It just really looks good. These look glorious. There's lots of glory in here. Lots of glory. There's a lot of memories in here as well. Back when I used to do Halloween trains and things, I wouldn't even attempt to do anything like that these days on today's YouTube. It's just too tricky to pull that off without getting smacked in the face. We seem to live in very, very different times. I don't know why. I don't know why. Why is it all different now? Another curious thing I noticed here is this is a fast train from Daiso. I've just got to get my facts right here. It's very similar to the Tomy system in a sense, but it's not as nicely finished off. Now, what I noticed here with this toy is it's got the yellowing that's going on that I saw on the Shooting Star Gordon. See, it's gone all yellow, and that was stored against the black plastic tub here, yet the other one doesn't seem to have gone as yellow. I can see some discoloration going on here, but if I line them up side by side and get around the right sort of way, hopefully you can see there's a big difference there. This one's far more yellow than this one. Yeah, I need a plastics expert. Someone will explain to me what's going on there. Like, none of these toys have batteries in it. It's not as if there's a battery in here leaking and doing wacko stuff. It's just a glorious box of toys. That's the best way I could describe it. You know, back when, I mean, look at Luke. You'd never get anything rendered like this these days. Not a chance. And I think we used to whinge about this when it turned up. I'm not whinging now, I can tell you that. You know, the glory days. And it's sadly so different now. I know, I bet you think that's Gordon underneath Salty. Move the old Salty, you sea dog. No, it's a Thomas. And from memory, I did have a Tomy Gordon, but it was all crumbly, and it was one of those ones that you only needed to touch it and it basically fell apart. Sometimes the plastic can get very brittle, but for some reason I haven't got a Tomy Gordon or a Trackmaster 1 Gordon. As for exactly why, I don't understand. I'll finish off the video by looking at the toys on the turntable. I'll shoot it in slow motion so the beauty of the toys will hopefully be revealed. While we're watching this, I'll tell you a little story of what happened when I was at my local Kmart getting the footage of the RFID tags, which had been ripped off the Pokemon stuff and whatever the Banter Toy Company stuff was. I think there was 18 of them there. When I was looking at that, it took me about 15 minutes to get the footage I needed to tell the story and to work out what was going on. And what was spooky was in the final little moments that I was there, a person had come around the corner from the very back of the store, remembering this is like a dead end of the store, so if you're up there, you're sort of, well, there's no one going through that area to go somewhere. That's the best way I could describe it. You're only there to get a bike or a scooter and basically nothing else. The person came around the corner, they started to walk towards me, but they saw what I was looking at, and they quickly turned around and they got out of there real fast. Luckily, I got a good snapshot view of this person just as they were walking towards me. They're also carrying a bag. It's one of those, reusable shopping bags everyone seems to carry. The person was white Australian, tall, 20-something, early 20s, straight dark hair, wearing glasses, and overall, if I could say, the look of the person was like a nerdy look. And it wasn't until a couple of hours later, and I just kept thinking about the way that person reacted when they saw me, and I thought about the look of the person and what's been done in the back end of that store. I thought, you know what, that person actually fits the profile of what was going on there. That's the feeling I've got, and mentally I've got a really strong picture of this person in my mind. If I see them again in store, I'm going to hopefully certainly recognize them, and I would be looking at them very carefully. But it didn't hit me until being out of the store and just thinking about that reaction that the person gave me from being there, because I thought, well, why did that person act like that when they saw me? And also, well, the other question is, what were they doing in the very back corner of the store? I know what I was doing. I was getting some video of what the naughty people get up to. Rarely ever do I ever find anyone up in the back corner of the store. Like, even the staff don't go there, apart from when they have to go and clean up the mess made from the naughty people. But I tell you what, it was spooky, and the mystery of what's going on in that store is a complex one, and it's also one that sort of sucks you in, because you see what's going on there and you think to yourself, well, surely I want to see who's doing this. I'm really curious to find out who's doing this. I'd love to see the person pulling apart all the Hot Wheels 20 packs. And that, I'm pretty certain that's an adult. This isn't little children doing this. It's done on a scale that little children don't operate at. Little children would maybe manipulate one or two things, not stuff en masse. It's very organised. And from getting to know some of the staff there, and there's been some lovely staff I've got to know, we've had some good long chats, is the way they see it is, this is all stuff which is basically flicked online. They see a lot more than what I see, and they would start to think, okay, well, this stuff can be hooked online for X amount. Remembering the person's walked out of the store and it's cost them nothing. So whatever it's sold for online is all profit to them. But it's a mystery that's just been getting worse and worse during 2022. And I know the store, really well. I've been going there since 1980 basically, and I've never seen anything like it up until this year of 2022. And I keep saying to myself, well, what's triggered this? What's happened this year that's been different to, let's say, previous years? What's kicked this off? Or is it just for the fact we're dealing with one or two or maybe three really, really focused individuals? It could be many things. I mean, it could all just be one person, but I've got a feeling it's more than just one person involved here. Anyway, hopefully we've looked at the trains enough here and you've heard my story, and maybe you can add bits to this, but then again, very few people ever get to watch the end of the video or listen to anything I've got to say. So if you do leave a comment, maybe you've got something to say about the shoplifting that goes on my local Kmart, and maybe explain to me what's going on, because I'd love to know. All engines go frippin'. What's it called? It was actually a fight to get James. Oh, it helps if I point at the frippin' right one.
My bag of farts, he stole that from me and he's making it as if he bought that himself. It's a lot of cold frippin' hell, I can't remember what to say. It's not his bag of farts, read it! It's Elf bag of farts! My God! And he thinks you're gonna fall for it. I'll just leave the message there. Let me tell you. If I can remember what to say, it's gonna really be helpful. Just leave the message there. Have you heard my bag of farts? It's so much fun, and I'll take this with me because it's mine. It's always been my bag of farts, and it really helps if I can hold on to it, doesn't it?
Before I do an in-hand appraisal, it helps if I actually... But there's things going on in this Gordon here that we're not seeing on. It helps if I go the right way, doesn't it? But you can see the details that are lacking. In a sense, I try to line them up as better as Fripp, and Fripp, I can't talk today. A beautiful rendition of Gordon, you know, spectacular, just frickin'. It's a completely spectacular toy in many ways, although it has a couple of clunky. Ooh, helps if I could hold it. And the driver's cab wheel, whatever it's called, it could be a pony. You tell me what the frippin' wheels are called. I wouldn't have a frippin' clue. Oh, the indignity! I've been shafted again by that Thomas and Friends AEG nightmare.